She collapsed again. But this time, it was different. Her lips turned as pale as paper. Her tiny chest barely lifted. Her pulse was fading in her father's arms. Damian Vera, one of the richest men in the city, a man who could bend markets with a single phone call, found himself begging the polished nurses in his mansion to save the only life that mattered. But they froze. Hesitation chained their hands. Protocols, rules, procedures, words that meant nothing when a child was slipping into the dark. And then the maid stepped forward. Amara, the quiet woman in a navy uniform, yellow gloves, and a faded green handkerchief tucked in her apron pocket. For years, she had been invisible in that house, the shadow who swept floors, folded sheets, and soothed a little girl's tears when no one else noticed. Now she held something no one trusted, a glass of liquid glowing gold under the chandelier. Damian's voice cracked with fury. "What is that? Some witch's brew? You'll kill her!" But Amara's dark eyes did not flinch. Her hands trembled, yet her words pierced the silence. "Call it what you want, but it may be the only thing between her and death." The room froze. The billionaire's heart pounded so violently he thought his chest would split. He clutched his daughter tighter, feeling her breaths fade against his white shirt. No one knew what was in the glass. No one but her. And in that moment, the line between life and death depended on whether he trusted the maid he had dismissed as nothing more than help. The first time it happened, spring sunlight still filled the nursery. Damian had returned from the boardroom to find his little girl sprawled on the rug, her golden curls damp with sweat, her sketchbook beside her. A picture of a sun, drawn in clumsy yellow crayon, was smeared by her trembling hand. "Lila!" He dropped his briefcase, his heart crashing against his ribs as he lifted her limp body. Within the hour, the city's most renowned pediatrician stood in the marble halls of the Vera mansion, speaking words that shattered Damian's illusion of control. "Your daughter suffered a hypoglycemic collapse. Her blood sugar plummeted. Not life-threatening this time, but if it happens again, she could seize, even stop breathing." Damian's voice was jagged. "But I feed her. She eats meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner." "Not enough," the doctor cut in. "For a child with her metabolism, missing a snack, a few hours of stress, it can be dangerous. She needs constant monitoring, trained hands, precision." Damian tightened his grip on his daughter's hand. The empire he had built with numbers and contracts felt useless. "Then she'll have the best," he vowed. "No price is too high." The very next day, 2 private nurses arrived, immaculate, white uniforms, pristine blue gloves, machine-like confidence. Damian introduced them proudly. "They will keep you safe, Lila. No more scares." But in the corner, Amara stood silently. Navy dress, white apron, yellow gloves faintly stained with lemon oil. In her pocket, as always, the old green handkerchief her mother had left her, worn soft from years of clutching it when her heart wavered. For 2 years, she had been Lila's shadow, the one who sang lullabies when nightmares woke the child, the one who coaxed her to eat when she refused, the one who wiped her tears and invented silly games with water and colors to make her laugh. But now she was nothing, just the maid. That evening, she gathered her courage. "Sir," she whispered, kneeling beside Damian's desk, "I've cared for Lila since her first steps. I know when she's hungry, when she's weak, when she's about to cry. I can keep her safe." Damian didn't even look up. "You're not a nurse, Amara. You're not trained. My daughter's health is not a place for instinct." Her jaw trembled. "It isn't instinct. It's knowing her. Every heartbeat of hers I've felt against my chest, every fever, every nightmare. I was the one who stayed awake." Finally, he looked at her, his blue eyes cold. "That's over now. Professionals are here. Do your job. Clean the house. Leave the medicine to them." The words cut like a blade. She bowed her head. "Yes, sir." But that night in her small attic room, Amara pressed the worn handkerchief to her face and wept. She wasn't just the maid, not in her heart, but the world refused to see it. Weeks passed. The mansion became a machine of schedules. Meals measured to the gram, nap times enforced, sugar banned. Damian told himself this was safety. This was control. But safety that smothers can become its own prison. Then came the second collapse. Late afternoon, golden light filled the living room. Toys scattered across the carpet. On the table, a half-finished drawing of the sun. Papa? Lila stood there, pale in her red dress. She swayed once, then crumpled. Damian caught her just before she hit the ground. Cold dread shot through him. Lila! Lila! Her chest rasped unevenly. Her lips turned ghostly white. Her eyelids fluttered like shadows sweeping across them. Help her, he roared. The nurses rushed in, but instead of action, hesitation. We should wait for the doctor. It's protocol. Protocol! Damian's scream cracked. She's dying in my arms. Still they froze. Fear of blame locked their hands. And in that moment, the richest man in the city realized his money could not buy a heartbeat. A shadow moved beside him. Amara. The green handkerchief slipped from her pocket as she knelt. Cold sweat, she whispered. Her pulse is thready. She's fading. Damian glared. Don't start, Amara. But then Lila's body jolted, her breath stuttering like a candle about to die. Damian nearly collapsed himself. Oh, God. No. The nurses backed away, whispering. Useless. Amara's eyes hardened. She stood, vanished into the kitchen. Moments later, she returned. In her hands, a glass shimmering with golden liquid. Damian's blood turned cold. What is that? Some poison? Some madness? Amara dropped to her knees. You can call it madness, sir. But this may be the only thing between her and death. Damian's arms tightened around Lila's limp body. Her breaths came in shallow rasps, each weaker than the last. The nurses hovered uselessly. The walls themselves seemed to hold their breath. And Amara still knelt before him, the glass trembling in her yellow-gloved hands, the golden liquid glowing like sunlight trapped in water. If you put poison to her lips, Damian's voice broke. It's not poison. Amara's words cut through the air. Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. It's sugar water. Honey stirred into warm water, a pinch of salt. The color comes from turmeric. Harmless. Natural. I've given it to her before when she refused to drink. I told her it was the sun in a cup. She laughed. She loved it. She would sip it when nothing else worked. Damian stared at her, disbelief and terror clashing in his eyes. You expect me to trust my daughter's life to some kitchen trick? Some folk remedy? Amara's throat bobbed. Her voice steadied, firmer than ever. No, sir. I expect you to trust that every second we wait, her brain starves. This is glucose. It will reach her blood in minutes. If I am wrong, condemn me, fire me, hate me. But if I am right, her voice cracked. She will live. The nurses whispered nervously. We can't authorize. Silence, Damian roared, his voice shaking the walls. He looked down at Lila, her tiny face drained of color, her lips barely parting with faint breaths. His world was slipping through his arms. And then, Papa. A whisper, barely a sigh. Damian's vision blurred, his lips trembled. For the first time in his life, pride shattered. Do it, he whispered hoarsely. For God's sake, do it. Amara moved quickly. Her hands still shook, but her heart was steady. She tilted the glass to Lila's lips. Just a sip, Sunbeam, she murmured. One drop. Nothing. Another drop. Damian's breath caught, terror ripping through him. Then, the faintest swallow. Amara exhaled sharply. Another sip. She coaxed softly the way she always had. 1, 2, 3. Slowly, Lila's throat moved again. Her lashes fluttered. Her chest rose fuller. And then, a whisper from the edge of death. Papa. Damian broke. He crushed her to his chest, sobbing. Yes, baby. Papa's here. I've got you. I've got you. The nurses stood frozen, wide-eyed. Moments later, the doctor and paramedics burst in. They checked vitals, shined lights, listened to her chest. What happened? Damian demanded, his voice raw. The doctor glanced at the glass in Amara's trembling hands. Then back at Lila. She suffered a severe hypoglycemic episode, he explained. Her blood sugar crashed. For a child her age, that can be fatal in minutes. The treatment? Fast-acting sugar, exactly what she was given. Salt aids absorption. And the turmeric? Irrelevant medically. But if it helped her accept the drink, he nodded at Amara. Then it saved her life. The words thundered in Damian's ears. He turned toward Amara, still pale, still on her knees. The green handkerchief is slipping onto the rug. For the first time, Damian realized he owed his daughter's heartbeat to the woman he had dismissed as nothing. His throat burned, his arms shook around his daughter. And then, his gaze fell on Amara. She knelt trembling, the half-empty glass still in her hands, the old green handkerchief in her lap. Damian's voice cracked. I brushed you aside. I told you you weren't an expert. If you hadn't disobeyed me tonight, I'd be holding a corpse. Amara bowed her head, voice soft as prayer. I didn't do it for thanks, sir. I did it because I couldn't watch her slip away. Damian reached out, not in command, but in gratitude. He gripped her arm. No, Amara, you did it because you loved her when I thought money could replace that, and I will never forget it. The doctor spoke gently. She'll need care. Balanced meals, constant monitoring. But tonight, this maid gave her exactly what she needed. Damian looked back at Amara. You're not just the maid anymore. You're family. And I am sorry for every time I dismissed you. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks. The handkerchief slipped from her lap. Damian picked it up. It's been with you always? She nodded weakly. It was my mother's. She said, love is the only medicine you can't buy. I carry it, so I never forget. Damian's chest heaved. His empire, his fortune, his power, useless without this truth. It wasn't money that saved his daughter. It was love. As the stretcher rolled away, Lila's small hand held tight to her crayon drawing of a sun. Damian pressed it to his heart. He finally understood. The sun doesn't shine because of power, or wealth, or control. It shines because of warmth. And that night in the cold marble halls of a mansion, warmth returned. So tell me, what saved her life? Was it science? Was it fate? Or was it the courage of a woman whose love shone brighter than gold? Comment your thoughts below. And if you want more stories like this, stories of sacrifice, redemption, and the impossible becoming real, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video right now. Because sometimes the difference between life and death isn't wealth, isn't power. It's the heart of someone willing to risk everything.